For now.
This is like a real effort.
Hopefully, we're about to order something that will just take a click at the button. And I will. I'll come to this because I'm a liaison.
More money they're spending.
To get past the Google Drive. The next step is video.
Oh. I'd like to call the October 21st, 2021 meeting of the Town of Rochester Appeals to order. First order of business is the continuing application of John Sturgis for an area variance. Oh, yeah, that would be a good idea. Let's do that. Thank you.
We should do pledge of flag.
Agreed.
Chair Cyrus,
Present.
Mr. Fisher, Mr. Berenger,
Present.
Mr. Russell,
Present.
Ms. Bresler, Ms. Vinton, present.
Also note that.
And we have the attorney for the town, Mary Lou Christiani, here as well, and myself, the secretary.
Thank you. Okay. Now, Mr. Sturgis, the continuing public hearing for an area variance on 42 Towpath Road, parcels in an R5 zoning district. The parcel is 1.7 acres. He proposes the erection of a single-family residence, does not meet the 100-foot setback from the high water line. Proposed structure is 70 feet away from the high water line. The applicant would need 30-foot variance. So first, is anyone here from the public that would like to speak? Okay. We had requested that the Environmental Commission provide commentary on the application, and we'd like to read that into the record now. Mike, you would,
Be happy to. Should we come up? Or-
if he likes. If you'd
You're
like to-
welcome. So in a letter dated September 29, the Environmental Conservation sent a letter to the Town of Rochester Zoning Board of Appeals as follows. The Town of Rochester Environmental Conservation Commission thanks the Zoning Board of Appeals for requesting the commission's comments and or recommendations regarding zoning permit 21-049-03AV, Towpath Road LLC, John Sturgis, in which the applicant is requesting a plus or minus 30-foot variance, 100-foot setback from the high water line code restriction for the erection of a single-family dwelling at 442 Towpath Road. The Town of Rochester ECC has reviewed the documents provided by the ZBA and would like to submit the following comments to be taken into consideration during the ZBA's review of the above-mentioned zoning permit. The topography of the site works to lessen the risk of flooding for the dwelling, which sits 3 to 4 feet higher than the floodplain. The shed sits lower than the dwelling and could be at risk of flooding. Extreme flooding events are becoming more frequent and with greater intensity with climate change. It is a concern of the Town of Rochester ECC that if the applicant were to build within the 100-foot setback, it could put both structures at greater risk of flooding and property damage. Property damage resulting in the sweeping away of any buildings, construction materials, and or personal property now poses a financial and safety risk to the applicant. It also poses an environmental stress to Petersgill, Rondout, and other falling water bodies as debris is carried away with floodwaters. Debris such as this also has the potential to damage other downstream structures. I'm fogging up, so pardon me. Terrible. A chief purpose of the 100-foot setback from high water line is to protect the environmental integrity of the local water bodies in the form of riparian buffer. Riparian buffers are the natural vegetation buffer that extends from the edge of the stream bank. A riparian zone helps to decrease erosion, reduce flooding damage, improve wildlife and stream habitat, and protects water quality. It is generally considered acceptable to have a buffer that is 2 times the width of a creek. If the variance is granted, it should be stressed that no damage to the riparian buffer is to take place outside the footprint needed to build the dwelling. Any damage that does take place, for example, removal of floodplain or stream bank vegetation, should be reestablished once work is complete. Thank you for taking the Town of Rochester ECC's comments and recommendations into consideration. Sincerely, the Town of Rochester Environmental Conservation Commission.
And just before you comment on the factual inaccuracies, just understand that this is commentary. It's not binding on the zoning board. It's the form of any other public comment. Okay, Mr. Stevens. So you had some.
Yes, just I found what I thought was an error in some of the commentary. It seems I think the primary concern would be paragraph 3, sentence 2 rather, about the shed sitting at lower than dwelling and could be at risk of flooding. There's no shed proposed.
Right, you removed.
Well, I never proposed it.
It was on one of the.
Plans
No,
on one of the maps.
It was on one of the maps.
no. Well, I have another property. There is a shed there.
And that's why they made a mistake. We can correct that.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that there is.
Disregard the check.
It just said there's no, we had not argued for a shed,
Right.
and obviously not in a flood zone. The other issue, and this is minor, it's a matter of, going and measuring where the dwelling might be. It's probably closer to 6 to 8 feet above the flood zone, as opposed to 3 to 4, because we've shifted it. And the stream goes down and the property keeps going roughly level.
So I'm
So-
sorry, you said 60 feet instead of.
You said.
No, I said it's probably 6 to 8 feet above the flood zone as opposed to 3 to 4, because we've shifted the building more downstream, and the property itself, it's not level, but it doesn't drop a whole lot, while the stream and the ravine between where it's likely to be, where we're hoping to site it, and the stream, there's a fairly deep ravine there. And I would say it's probably roughly 6 to 8 feet. The first floor might even be more than that, or the first floor level might be, it's over my head. I'm 5'8". So, and it's several feet over my head where the first floor is likely to be. So I think it's more, that's all. And that's it.
Thank you.
Anything else you need from me?
This time. Full tight though. Any motion on the public hearing? Either to
They're your
close it or to
choices.
continue. Does anybody have?
There's no one from the public here to
Nobody's
speak on this. right?
I'll make a motion to close it.
Okay.
I'll second it. We had letters go out and everything. right?
Yep,
Yeah.
letters went out and nothing was received. Okay, so Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Behringer,
Voting on the
voting on the closing of the public hearing.
Yes.
Mr. Wassel
Aye.
and Chair Cyrus.
So any discussion on the proposal at all? From what we've heard from the ECC, from what we heard from Mr. Sturgis, from his plans? Any commentary?
I've just, I haven't looked to see how wide the stream is, but they mentioned twice the width of the stream for the riparian buffer is what's recommended. It strikes me it's right around that.
100
It's gonna fall within, very close to where the home would be, right? So.
So the stream, so if the stream is 50 feet wide there, the buffer should be 100 feet, right?
It
From
should
the
be
high
100
water.
feet. And if the riparian buffer is disrupted during construction, what they're saying is it should be repaired, or it should be
Right.
reestablished.
It's,
And I've
there's
heard
no
you-
construction near
Yeah.
the bank.
Right.
I've heard you speak about the blueberries and wanting to establish more of that kind of growth.
Actually, I have a decent blueberry patch
Yeah.
on that site. But actually, I was thinking about moving some of it to the other lot. Because if we do that, they would take that soil, the kind of soil you would use to restore
Sure.
the other lot, which had been washed out by the floods.
Mm.
The blueberries, they survive in that. And I have existing blueberries.
So you had spoken at one of the meetings, you talked about things that you were, I guess, amiable to doing. One of them was planting blueberries. Another one was bringing in some soil, some fill.
Actually, quite a bit. It turns out,
So-
if you do the measurement, it'd be upwards of 1,600 yards for the other site, the other lot, the adjacent lot.
Right. And that to level out what?
Well, no, restore.
Restore.
It'd been washed out for, I don't know how many, 100 years of flooding.
And that's for both lots or for?
No, just for, the other lot will benefit from whatever is excavated. If it turns out a full basement can go in, there'll be a decent amount of material
Right.
that will tend to,
So you'll just move the spoils to the second lot.
well, actually, the lot in question for the dwelling, the idea is to level. You won't exactly level it out, but I'd like to even it out. There's a section that drops down midway.
May I ask a question? You're mentioning the second lot, and we all know what you mean as the cabin on there.
Where the cabin is, yeah.
Is your plan, as originally discussed, is it to combine the two lots into a single lot?
After we,
Yeah, they already have approval from the planning board. to do that,
I
but
just
not
wanted
filing
to-
maps.
yeah.
I just want to confirm.
And then further plan is to take down that particular cabin.
Yeah.
It's a great camping area. It's not really buildable. And there's a shed there that's dilapidated, and that would also come down.
So I had understood that you'd withdrawn the application for the.
No, they were approved before our last meeting.
I withdrew it because
Oh,
I
they
thought it
were
was,
brought after?
because I was
Right.
told it was interfering.
Yes, because I,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
So I
I
decided to,
advised Mr. Sturgis to hold off on that
On filing,
application
okay.
until after this one went through, because he would have been in violation of
Okay.
a different
Okay,
code by having
so that's,
that building. It would have been more difficult to build,
all
right?
right, gotcha.
140/39.
I gotcha.
140, yeah. So,
so I put in a
so once this
request.
goes through, you go back to.
Yeah, I withdrew it only because I didn't want there to be an error
Mhm.
that it was
If it's from-
possibly approved.
Right.
I mean, officially approved. You needed a survey to approve it.
We are-
To go through the final.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't, my surveyor wouldn't, I just said,
We're gonna
don't
get
do
our
that.
documents
But
in.
You're okay with having that, going back and having the lots combined?
Oh, I prefer it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it'll be one large lot with a single building,
Right,
um,
with unbuildable land on it.
with unbuildable land
Should
on
get a
one.
little tax free.
Well, each,
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be the same taxes, put it that way, because the cabin disappears.
Yeah.
And we all spoke about trees, and I mean, you had some trees that are, I guess, putting where the power is going to be coming in jeopardy, but you would otherwise be amenable to protecting what trees are there.
Yeah, well, it's where the egress access, where the access comes in. It's, there are two trees there that need, maybe it turns out to be one tree. It depends. And there are four others that really do lean over the power or close to. I mean, they're tall.
Mhm.
So if there's a storm, we've had some, It could come down on the power lines. I mean, they're that aimed right towards the road.
Is it possible those power lines could be put underground?
No, I mean, we're talking, no, the Central Hudson line.
They bury them.
Well, up to Central Hudson. I don't think,
No, it's up to the homeowner because the homeowner's lines from the pole.
no,
to the
my
house.
line is underground. I mean, there was a permit already granted on the site.
Yeah.
In 14, first thing I did is I put it underground power.
So your lines are, underground.
Mine is under
The ones you're concerned about is the main line.
the street line. And so these are trees that are at risk.
So aside from the trees that, are at risk for going into the power lines on the public road and
Yeah, I would put in stuff like Juneberry, stuff that works in the area. I mean,
Native plants.
it is just native. And I've already talked to Ulster County Soil Water Conservation and have people there who work with me. I said, basically give you an idea what you do is you throw down, once you put the soil back in place, he said to just mulch it and toss in what's called Canadian rye. And it comes up very quickly and establishes a root structure. Because once you put something in, next X number of weeks, you can have a storm. So what you want to do is do it and give it time to take hold. And he said it helped supervise it.
I thought we had determined, where you had said that it's the deck that's actually, the house is moving and encroaching on the 100 feet, but the deck that you plan to build is encroaching in as well, right?
Well, you've asked for the full shape, so it is the, I think the house encroaches like 5 feet,
Right.
something. It's,
I'm trying to,
the deck is it's an 8-foot deck that faces upstream. And it adds, it was 8 feet to the length of the house. So that does encroach. And so we adjusted the position of the house so that one corner is roughly 5 feet over the side setback, 5 or 6 feet. So there'd be a variance required on that side. And the stream corner encroaches on the stream setback, the 100-foot stream setback. Now the deck pushes a little further there.
closer to
we
the
had
street.
also determined there was a side yard variance needed as well.
Correct, yes.
Right?
Yeah,
So it's both. I think it was 7 feet for the side. yard?
it isn't much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 43
Yeah,
point 5.
43 and a half. So it's 6.5 feet on the side yard. Yeah, yours was at the front, but that was a bit. So it was 95 to the house and then the porch.
Yeah, it's another,
So I think the
10 or
34 was a bit, and I don't think it was 30 feet at the end of it, yeah, was it?
No, it was
it was less,
Yeah.
but it was mainly 30 feet, so.
Yeah,
in the original, it was 30 feet, but you moved I think you
We
moved. the
moved-
home back away from the
We
street.
moved it
But
and-
then you added the porch back. in.
Well, because on the discussion, so you've
Yeah, yeah.
had several
so I
revised,
think it's like 13 feet for the
right,
buffer, right? Was more like
roughly,
that.
but well, because of the
That
deck,
sounds right.
the
Yeah,
deck,
so
so,
if it's 8-foot deck and it was the 5 feet in the house. So
That sounds right, yeah.
it's like 30.
of course, the deck, there's a porch there that faces the stream, so
Yeah,
that's,
that's what it says, the porch.
yeah, the porch and there's a
A
deck
deck on the side.
And the
that
deck-
wraps
a
around
deck
side
on the
and meets
end.
the porch,
Right.
right?
that wraps around the end of the house and back towards the door with the
Oh, so-
the
I got
second
that
door.
one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody need this? Okay.
I think I have to have a deck if you're outside and a porch.
Do you need one all the way around like that? Is there any way you could cut at one side off to the porch?
It would just, I mean, if you're gonna have a deck on that side of the porch, as in part your entryway, because that's gonna be the main entrance for the house.
See, if you eliminate this here piece.
This part is the porch,
Right.
and the entrance is gonna be right in here,
Okay,
okay, because you're gonna come up with the
then you got
car.
all this here for a porch right here.
Yeah, and I put this in, you want the porch facing the stream.
I understand. I would too, but
You want the view, so I
I'm
just,
just trying to cut the amount of variance you need there. back a little.
So one
I mean,
mitigating factor is
Either-
the porch is gonna be above the ground. You're gonna have like sonotubes or something.
we're gonna, yeah, you have to have a support.
So there'll
The
be less
porch is at the first floor.
disruption, is what I'm saying. You'll have less disruption.
The porch is at the first
It's still
floor
gonna be on
level.
piers over
Yeah,
something where,
And
Right.
if we can't get down, say, I don't know what you need for a basement, and I assume you need at least 6. If you're 2 feet above ground, which we could do, that, and then you put a little soil around.
where you hit rock.
Well, I'm not sure if you can hit rock there. We did the soil tests here,
for your septic.
8 feet for the septic.
Right.
These 8 feet and no rock. It was like,
And you got lucky.
and, but it was also over here, which is really surprising.
Yeah.
And then the other side of where the drive is also, they said there was enough to do to be your septic, should you need it. Because I mean, you already had the health department do this, so I have to redo
Yeah.
that because it's expired. It was a cost issue with the builder. It was
Mhm.
one thing when we got it, and then all of a sudden it sounded, it was much more. And we decided, I just said, no, I got to find a different option, and it took a while.
Any other questions for the board?
So it became a single story. Oh, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-story. And this now is a single story. So it went from 2,000, roughly 2,000 square feet to 1,000.
Okay, are there any motions? All right, so motion for a continuance perhaps till next meeting. We have 62 days from the close of the public hearing to render a decision.
Are you guys just not ready or no?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think I'm ready. The hesitation on my part is about what we can put into writing, because I'm not familiar with the process in terms of the things we just talked about protecting, repairing, buffer. Can we write that into the, our approval?
That can
I
be part of
see.
the motion. Any conditions that you want in there can be. part of
Because
the
I
motion.
think, it's a trust factor. It's just like, I think we should build it into the agreement that we reach. Right? And,
Into the,
oh, I'm prepared to do that.
either the grant or the denial of the variance, you should build in conditions.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Like not clear cutting. I heard someone say not clear cutting.
Not
trees.
clear to-
I mean, you cut the trees, that's what gave us the issue on the other lot. The soil just washes away.
No, I get it. I get it. I get it.
You can't,
Bill, you had a question or a point?
Nope.
I have no,
All right, then.
not clear cut.
You want to go
So,
over the criteria for the area variance?
I'm sorry.
You want to go through the questions for the area variance? Because you should
The five
show how it
questions.
meets it if you're gonna.
Right.
Well, I don't think there's a motion to in front of the board for the,
Right, you can do a motion and then go, just make sure you go over them, whether it's beforehand, which leads you to a motion to approve or deny, or after the motion's made, because that's what we have to show is
Right.
that they weigh favor of approval or denial.
Well, I'm not ready to make a decision tonight.
I make a motion, we make a decision tonight.
So would you like to make a motion to approve or deny?
I make a motion, we deny.
Is there a second?
I'm not sure what, yeah.
Okay,
There's
then
a
table it
second.
till next month.
So I think we'll table it till next month.
Can I ask the basis?
Not at this time.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to ask the basis for denial. That's all.
Just get a second, so everybody can look it over and think about it.
Right, I think that, I know I need a little more time. Charlie seems to have indicated the same. Mike has indicated the same, so I think, we should continue it and look to have a motion one way or the other based on conditions and how it's written up for next meeting.
That could help you.
Another number there, just in case you have a tie.
Right.
It'd
Who
be nice to
made
have
the
a-
motion to table it? Did we?
You don't need a motion
You
to
don't need a
table
motion,
it.
okay.
We have 62 days to make a decision, so there was no second to the motion, so there you go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time to do that. Okay, the next application is the Flaminino. I'm getting better, but
Yes,
I know I'm not
yeah.
there yet. So this is the properties at 21 Ski Slope Road district. The parcel is 0.73 acres, one parcel. I'm sorry, I don't have what the other parcel is. And essentially, this is the property line runs through the cabin on one of the lots that you have. And what you're trying to do is have a lot line adjustment so it doesn't run through the middle of the cabin. So this was a public hearing for that. So is there anyone in the public that would like to speak with comments on this application? So hearing
Quite
none.
the question.
Make a motion, we adjourn the hearing, stop the hearing, open hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right.
Close it.
Was it to close the public
Yeah,
hearing?
there
Okay.
you go.
Because adjourn would mean we're coming back next.
Okay.
All right, so roll call vote, Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Berenger.
Yes.
Mr. Wassel.
Yeah.
And Chair Cyrus.
So any discussion on the application? Any questions? Comments, concerns? Fairly straightforward. Do we have any motion on, would we like to review the questions? Okay. It's gonna be a quiet week. So again, as you heard in the prior one, we have 62 days from the close of the
Yep.
public hearing to render a decision. Certainly, I think we'll have something for you next month for sure. You do not have to attend if you choose not to. I know travel is an issue for you as well.
If next month I cannot, but if, cannot be present in Europe, but otherwise the other one.
Yeah, it wouldn't,
I-
this isn't required.
Okay,
So,
all right.
all right. Thank you. very
Thank you
much.
so much.
So the next is Bettina Schneider area variance, 700 County Route. Parcels in an R3 zoning district, 2.7 acres. Request a variance to build a 6 to 7 foot fence to shield increasing traffic lights. Speaking with,
I am Donovan. I am a contractor to build the fence.
okay.
outlet is
Great.
proposed.
And
Sure. So I don't know if everybody saw the letter. I sent a letter, just talking about, what we would like to do.
That you sent in, right?
Sorry?
You sent in a narrative explaining.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Oh, I sent it like, to accompany the,
so why don't you just walk, so we acquire the property?
so we bought it, we closed July 2nd, 2020. And in that, year plus since,
15 months.
yeah. It's just gotten to be more and more noisy and busy. We're right on Route 6. The house is right on, right on the road. We can road, the road can see us, et cetera. And for some reason, maybe the way the land is shaped right there, it's like particularly noisy, almost like, a little noise canyon. And so when trucks and motorcycles and even cars pass by, they're either accelerating or braking, and it's just very loud and busy. And I took some videos if anybody wants to see. They're on my phone, but they give me a good idea of just how much kind of activity there is. Yeah, I mean, we've been coming to the area for a long time, but we just were able to purchase a house last year. My family's house was on the other side of the river and way up the road and stuff. So I never really, I guess I didn't really think through what the reality of being right on the road would be like. But now we're in it. So I was just hoping.
So the property itself, it only fronts on Route 6. It's not on a corner
Correct.
of it, right? So it's only Route 6.
Yeah.
And are there any commercial?
No.
Nope.
No,
It's all residential right in that.
It's all residential. Yeah. It's just below Rock Hill Road.
Yeah.
Just downhill, like we're like one house downhill from Rock Hill,
Right.
or two houses downhill rather. And a few houses
You knew that
uphill
brick,
from
that brick
church.
house. Is a brick house.
Brick house.
Trying to locate it mentally.
You're
What,
between the
side
corner of Rock
She's on the
Hill
right-hand side,
and,
going up. Right.
Church Hill.
what is it, Churchill Road?
Yeah,
I
Closer to the
know your
rock, yeah.
place. Yeah, you've had a lot of work done on it.
the little like
Okay.
tan house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Can you-
Firewood
yeah. we got it.
out there now. All right.
so
Have you
there's
thought
a-
about
there's a-
building trees and putting up things like that instead of a fence,
Well,
a natural barrier?
I would love that, except that the timeline for that to actually establish and kind of do the job is many years out.
It's
So
also, there's a wide culvert, about 4 feet across, between her property and the road, so the chances of establishing any further trees there is pretty slim.
How far from the road is the house itself?
About 120 feet.
the house,
Yeah, from one
Okay.
corner, yeah.
So
Oh.
100 feet, the house is set back
No, he
120
means
feet
like-
from the road?
no, it's less than that, from the road to.
Not
to
the, not the.
If you're
sorry,
walking
not
from the road straight to the front door, how far
It's-
is it?
Oh, then
Maybe
it's less than that.
Like 40 feet, I think.
It's probably between 40 and 60.
Let me see. Sorry. Did you
Yeah,
send
I'm-
a survey?
I'm interested in
Yeah,
this.
there's a sort
Uh,
of-
And the
yes.
land goes up a little bit from the roads, the road surface, yeah.
Mhm.
Above 6, right?
A
It rises
little
up.
bit, a little bit.
Slightly.
Yeah, so
Very
the
slightly.
plantings, Bill raised plantings, I like to follow up on that a little bit. So I wouldn't think you would plant in the culvert itself. I think you would plant up on the buffer where, your property is higher above and that would be more effective as absorbing some of the road, I would think.
It's just that that could take,
Couple of
Like-
years, maybe.
I mean, at least depending on what the plants are and how long they take to, how,
Have you-
how
have you-
large they
Have you
are.
researched it? Have you looked into it?
Well, no, not really. I mean, I have some plants in mind for things that are, that are native and that do have some density and that also keep their foliage year round, because it would really only be effective if it were not deciduous. So things like mountain laurel could be, a helpful thing because they are pretty dense and bushy and big. But, that could take 5 years to get to big enough to actually like buffer properly.
I would just let you know that there is a lot of information, publicly available on this topic of growing shrubs and trees. I'm looking at a website as we're talking. And, they talk about the benefits of using trees and shrubs to deaden noise from the road. So I'm just
More
saying, maybe looking into a little bit.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to doing that. But I am also wondering, I wasn't able to get any feedback on this, but I was also wondering what the reason is. Like, I'm not sure what it is that I'm kind of responding to, like, why are fences not okay? The only thing I could guess at was that it's, maybe perceived as exclusionary or offensive in
So
some way.
the
But that's a
zoning
guess.
is 4 feet in the front, right?
Yes.
So 6 to 7 feet is a fairly substantial distance, 50% adds, right, from a variance perspective. So there's a couple of different things that I've seen in my time on the zoning board that have come up with it. So the first is sound attenuation, right? That's one of the big ones.
Yes.
And what the studies have shown on that, again, we can probably look and find some of those studies, was that, a wood fence 6 or 7 feet doesn't really kill the sound. That you have to be up not 10, 12 feet in order to have any chance of that. And it has to be on both sides of the wood and thick, right? Not 1 or 2 inches thick, more like 12 inches to 2 feet thick. Sound attenuation everybody wants, but it really doesn't provide that. Wood fencing won't provide that. The other reason for lower fences is a safety factor, right? So picture, playing peekaboo around the wall with your kid, right? So when a car approaching a low fence, you can see cars backing out, you can see animals running out from behind the fence, you see kids running, pedestrians, things like that, right? So from a safety perspective, the lower fence is a bit safer. That's one of the reasons it's have that, right? In order to provide that. There's also the safety factor of, while it doesn't screen for privacy, if there's an issue in your yard, somebody could see something going on, the house is on fire, they could call the fire department. So there's a couple different reasons why fences are low, particularly in the front yards.
It's also the look and feel and character of the neighborhood. Just imagine if there were houses all along the road and everybody wanted a 7-foot fence, you'd be driving in a corridor, right? I mean, it would be.
So
It
may I
wouldn't be
ask
a very-
what
And
does
also
permit the
affects
variance? Because
sentiment.
I heard your reasoning for not permitting the variance, but what is the reason for permitting the variance? Is
So,
there ever
and
been a
I'll also
case?
tell you, in my time on the board, we've had fence variance comes up at least once a year, probably only once a year. And I don't recall us passing within one. So,
In Bettina's case, she proposed to build a fence behind the tree line, which was already established as seemingly a barrier between her property and the road. So it wouldn't be so silly to the neighbors. I know her neighbors had also signed off saying they had approved under their, sightliness, if it was to bother them. The fence itself would be only 100 feet from one end to the other end alongside the road. And when you're traveling at 30 miles an hour to travel 100 feet, you pass that fence in less than 2 seconds.
so
So I think
letters in support are certainly something that's good to submit to the board for consideration. It's like any other public comment. I think we
Right.
made earlier. And so those are good to have as well. The setback is really where, that's why I asked how far the house was set back from the road. Because if you went behind the setback, certainly you have the ability to build a height that's more in line with what you're looking for. But while you're within that setback, right, that's where the 4-foot limitation.
While you're with it,
And
meaning, the, like, is there a cutoff for where, are you saying that there's like a point
There's a
between?
buffer,
the
the
culvert.
road going back in your front yard. And in an R2 zone, which I think, I believe it's 35 feet. So if you were to build the fence 35 feet back from the property line, the road, you have more flexibility.
Here's Google Maps, there's your place.
Yeah, that makes it look like it's really deep. It's not. I mean, you've driven out.
Take it from the road. So the fence would be like, your proposal is to have the fence like right behind the trees line there?
If you go
Well-
further up, you have to go further up
from
the
tree to
road
tree,
because if you get in her entrance, you'll see what,
Up here.
It's 30.
yeah, further upward.
Isn't that 4 feet?
You're saying,
From the
up- this is
road.
downhill.
Yeah, uphill. If you go uphill, you'll see she
We
has,
dealt with
I
that
believe it's
before,
4
where
trees
from the road.
between the corner of her driveway to the
It's-
corner of her
yeah,
property.
it's-
and
It's
her side.
somewhere, it's measured from.
And you'll
the-
see.
From ground level.
Can I see this?
Just think of it from the other way. If you lived on a cliff.
Yep. So now
You could-
her left side of her driveway, if you go to the right side of her driveway, that's where the fence is proposed
Tell
to
me to
go.
go uphill.
Yeah,
All
just too much. So yeah, if you tilt it to the right, you'll see there's an established tree line. The
Yeah,
fence was. to
That's
be
what I
built.
had up originally. So,
Yep.
and left
so your
too,
proposal is to have a fence behind this tree line,
Correct.
correct? Like directly behind it,
Or
Yes,
actually.
you would
what
build
was
before
it,
the
each
flagpole
tree?
or whatever that
I
is.
think at this point it'd be easier to do it behind the trees, so that way slight misses.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay, I'm sorry.
With their application, do they get the criteria that they have to get?
Hmm.
Yes, it's part of the
Okay,
packet.
so that's what that.
And I think it's important too to realize how steep of the hill she's on right there. So obviously any vehicle coming up and down is exerting a lot more force and it's quite a bit louder. I know you said it doesn't reduce the sound as much, but in my experience, it does have some effect, some condition of, noise reduction. There'd be, placebo or not. So, but I think in this instance, it's just comfortability. And when we personally, Bettina spoke to most of her neighbors and, they all had a problem with it. And like I said, it's a very short distance of fence. 100 feet sounds like a lot, but when you're driving by, it's really a blink.
Right.
Also I asked, I initially called to find out if we needed permission to do this. I asked the building supervisor, what about all the other, like there are fences all over the place that are 6, 7, 8 feet high and in Rochester. And I was like, well, then how then? And I don't really know the answer to that.
It's possible that they were erected at that height prior to the fence law going into effect. So they're pre-existing non-conforming and they're allowed to continue that.
I mean,
That's
these are-
possible. I don't
these
know
are-
that where
And
they are.
also possible they were put up without getting a
Yeah, and
permit.
that's possible too, and they could end up
Right.
being found
I
in
know there's
violation
one on.
and made to take them down.
There's a few that I've noticed
Samsonville
recently.
Road.
Yep.
that Someone built.
I just
know the
documented that
CEO is
myself.
looking at.
Cedar Hill.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Not to call out other people for what they're doing because we're, under our own case, but
Right.
other than, I think we touched base on most of, her reasoning why she would like it. And as far as, my experience as a carpenter building fences, built a lot of fences within the city of Kingston and, plenty of places between the 4 foot and the 6 foot. As far as, sometimes you really can't even tell the difference until you're standing right up on it, as far as, an outside perspective. And as far as Patina's interest, for her to have that just a little bit further comfortability under, her own means of her home and her property, as far as like the outside perspective, which one weighs more, is it more important for the public to feel like she has a 6-foot fence, or is it more important for her to be comfortable within her home? Which, I think that at the end of the day, she's not.
I just speak for a minute. Chairman? Okay, so in your pack, when you applied, there are criteria that we have to weigh. So it shows the things that you have to show to the board
Mhm.
in order to ask for the variance. And so it can't just be comfort versus that we have to go by state and town law, which are identical.
Right.
So when you schedule a public hearing, they're the important things for you to address. Go down that list and address why you meet those criteria. And that was in your package. There's 5.
Yeah, or you mean like I should go through what's in the package or?
It would be beneficial.
Yeah, because that's in order to get a variance. They're the 5 things you have to show us would apply to your property. You don't do it now. You can do it at the public hearing.
Right, so
So it's,
in the packet also, it described the steps in getting a variance, right? So the first one is the first meeting that you come in for. Then we have the public hearing, where the public gets to comment on your application.
Okay.
And then we had 2 of them this evening. The public hearing is closed. The board has 62 days from the close of the public hearing to grant or deny your application, right?
Okay.
Oftentimes, at the close of the public hearing, we have a motion to either grant or deny right then.
Okay.
So usually it's at least a 2-month process. It could be up to 4 months, right? Depending on the application. The gentleman at first, I think he's been probably here about 6 months trying to get his, right? So because there's questions, there's comments from the public, there's board that we want clarification on, things like that. So
More material.
So just to clarify, amongst the 5, processes within the packet, we require to bring that in as proof of reasoning for the variance. Is that like something that needs to be just strictly fulfilled through paperwork? I know you said it's also good to have signatures of,
So,
is there
one of
anything
the
else?
things that helps is if, the public comments, if your neighbors are amiable to the change that's going on, that's providing public comment to us, right? So that we understand it. Clearly, if the neighbor lives in New Jersey, it's not going to have very much impact as opposed to a neighbor living at, 690 County Road, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, all the neighbors who
And
sign,
from the public hearing,
Or-
all the neighbors that are within a 500-foot radius are notified of the public hearing by mail, so that they
Okay.
have the opportunity.
okay,
So
and
those
if
are the
they
ones
can't
that
come,
are.
They can submit letters. They can send
Yeah,
an
they can send
email
them- yeah, they don't have to,
to Nicole
right.
to be part of
Okay.
the record.
So the questions that Ms. Cristiano was speaking about were what the board considers in either granting or denying approval of a permit. What's the impact on the environment? The impact on the neighborhood? Is the variance substantial or not? Now I'm drawing a blank.
And the other 2,
Yeah, and the other two.
and the other 2. But
Was
I,
it
I hear,
Self-created.
right, was it a self-created hardship?
Self-created hardship in this situation. And,
no, I mean, we just bought the house and,
does it change the character of the neighborhood?
I got your comments, I don't have to look. up.
Yeah, you have it memorized.
I do.
so actually, so all of these items, I
And whether the
did
benefit can be
actually,
achieved by another means, right? Which, like Mr. Wassel brought up, planting trees, planting shrubs, those things.
right.
And then our
I
charge
did,
is to grant the minimum variance, if we grant one, minimum variance necessary to achieve the objective, right? So if we feel a 4-foot 1-inch fence will achieve that same objective as a 6-inch fence, we might grant something for 4 foot, right? So That's kind of the process in a nutshell. I don't know.
Yeah, you might want to, you said you have the videos so you could hear, you might want to copy that and send it in to Nicole, and that can be part of the record. And we can all listen to that to get an idea.
Okay,
But just play it here, you can't really capture that in the minutes, but if you forward that
okay.
to the zoning board, which hat is tonight, to the zoning board, it can be part of the record, so they can hear
Okay,
what you're saying you hear.
and well, this is a practical question. Can I put it in like a Google Drive? Because it's a lot of clips. You know, it's like a truck, another truck. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that
Essentially,
okay?
what I do is I take the file and I upload it onto the ZBA's Google Drive.
Okay,
So,
Okay.
yeah, that's fine.
okay. And then as far as the, what sounds like the kind of, major points, I think that's all like I did fill out the packet and, and I think I complied with all of the required documentation. So I think you have all of that.
Okay, that's good. That'll
in
all be in the
paper.
record. That's what they'll consider.
Right.
They're the
Okay.
things they have to consider, and they're all you really
Okay.
consider.
And I mean, as far as the, the corridor point, I totally get that. And there is something like inherently obnoxious about a big tall fence. If there's, a series of them, it's not like a nice thing for everybody. But I think for houses that are really right on the road, it just feels like it makes more sense than houses that are set back and have a big, a big swath of land. Our neighbors, their houses are like up a long driveway and then the house is back there. So we're on the same
You
road,
have,
but they
you
don't
have
have,
some neighbors that have homes closer to the road than yours too.
there is that little white house down
Yeah,
there.
with a
Nobody
picket
close to
fence,
the road.
Yeah.
about 3 feet tall.
Yeah,
I know. So,
but most are
with these recordings, may I ask where you were standing when you took them? Are
in
you
the driveway,
in the driveway by the road or by your home?
in the, like halfway between, but I
Okay.
can,
Okay,
I can make them be more like,
it just helps gain
from the
perspective.
kitchen or from the bedroom. At like 5 a.m, 6 a.m,
Yeah,
we all hear
engine brake.
the Jake brakes, coming and going. So it's
You have a 1-story or a 2-story home?
one. Yeah.
Are you gonna be taking more pictures, videos?
Oh, yeah, I can do that anytime.
What if it stood on the edge of the road and had somebody standing that's about 6 foot tall, where you're gonna put fence,
Sure,
something of that nature?
just to see what it looks like.
Be more,
As
yeah,
people pass
more of an
by.
idea of
Or
what it
it
would
sounds
look like,
it's-
kind of.
Yeah,
It's a
I
good
mean, one
suggestion.
thing I wanted to I'll also just mention is that the proposed look of the fence would be something that would blend in as much as a fence can, there's a neighbor down on Burm who it's just a cedar fence, it's just aging naturally, it's not painted. Slats are vertical, so it doesn't look so much like a barrier. And it's pretty nice. So that was an idea, was to just have it be cedar and it would kind of age down and go silver and, we could also put it in front of the fence so that people who are driving by are seeing plants. We see the back of the fence, but people driving by could see, and then the timeline for growth wouldn't be such a factor. So that's another
Well, you can buy
idea.
plants that are more mature.
You can.
They're really expensive.
Hey, if you humor me,
Yeah.
I'm gonna read a section of a website, a fence specialist. Is that okay if I read this? Many, you might find it interesting. Many people choose to add a fence to a property to increase privacy in the yard or to block street/road noise. Depending on your property, this may or may not completely work. You are trying to block out road noise, but your home sits on a hill above the road. Chances are good that you're not going to be able to block it all out with a traditional fence. Fencing regulations make it difficult, limiting how high you can build, and for good reason. If we were all allowed to build fences as tall as we like, we would more likely end up with some very ugly neighborhoods. If you find yourself in a situation, a great workaround is to use trees and shrubs acting as a fence with no height regulations. A fence will help out the majority of noise, but in some situations, you must go beyond the fence. As always, it's good to ask yourself a few questions before you get started. It goes on, but I mean, this is from a company that builds fences for a living, you know? So I think it's worth researching a little bit, what the alternatives are, and which is one of the questions. One of the 5 questions, like, are there alternatives that would require less of a variance?
Well, I have given that thought. It's not like I didn't think.
But I did ask the question, and it sounded like your answer was you hadn't researched that. So all I'm asking is if you would do some of that research. for
Sure.
Next time.
I mean, I will say that the bit of research that I did do is, it becomes a budgetary question. It's really expensive to plant this more mature plants and to like create the, enough of a buffer with plants within, a couple of years, a year or two, would require a huge outlay of funds. It's, I mean, per plant, and then, getting them planted would be very expensive.
You're obviously familiar with the property. You guys might want to visit. Probably everyone's familiar with it. and just like,
If
which one
anyone
is-
isn't, they should.
They've probably all driven
That's
by it.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance.
That's
to
our,
go.
yeah, we're
I would
very
do it that way.
Before,
exposed
between
to,
now and if you
I mean,
schedule a public
Right
hearing.
after you get through the S-turn.
Yeah,
Take a look.
So I think, the next step is clearly a public hearing. Someone like to make a motion for that?
I'll make a motion for a public hearing. Open a public hearing,
I'll
At the
second.
November meeting.
yes. Regular November meeting.
Second.
Second, so roll call.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Berenger,
Yes.
Mr. Walsall,
Aye.
and Chair Cyrus.
Any additional questions for Ms. Schneider or Mr. Donovan? You have any more questions for us?
I don't think so. I'll send the sound
Yeah.
clips, and I'll upload this, and I can get more, more signatures. And I'll research plants that are maybe more reasonably priced than what I saw thus far.
Yeah, it's
There's
a
some
shame Ms.
great
Bressler
end of
isn't
year
here today,
sales.
because she just did the same thing that I did her. She lives on Route 2. Is Sampsonville Route 3?
3.
Right.
And what-
57, 58. So she had her house, though, rather than sit above the road, sits below the road. And she put in a lot of mature plantings this past week, actually. Getting the road noise, and unfortunately, she's not here, but she could walk through her choice.
I would be totally open
And
to,
you mentioned Burn Road, somebody just put in some evergreens in front of the home right on Burn Road. And I think this time of year is great, because there's significant sales going on at the nurseries, so.
So no, Mr. Donovan's probably not real thrilled to hear that,
I'm familiar with that as well.
but, yeah.
He doesn't
Not that I
take
would put it in, but
Right, yeah.
Well, it could be, could be any number of things, like a combination to consider. We'll just have to wait and see.
And if there's, I don't, maybe Nicole, I don't know if I can get the contact information for, I don't know who.
Nicole is the
I'm the
primary.
contact. yeah.
Okay, but I mean, for the person that you were
I don't
saying,
think
just
that
put
we-
the plans
no,
in.
No, I don't think we can have an
No.
outside
Oh, okay.
meeting conversation.
Okay.
So
Big suggestion.
we can't have ex parte communication with applicants.
Oh,
You
got
can
it,
speak
okay.
to her after your application is complete.
Okay,
Would probably be more appropriate. So,
okay. But anyway, I would be interested in recommendations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. then.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Approval of the minutes. September.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes. September 16th.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Berenger,
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Aye.
Chair Cyrus.
Yes. Any other matters anyone would like to discuss?
Yeah, I do have some stupid question probably, but I really don't know. Is there a way of granting a variance for a limited time?
No. That goes with the property.
I was thinking with them where you could grant it, say like for 4 years.
Till their
Then they would
plans
have-
grow up,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
That's what I was
the same
thinking.
thing.
Yeah,
You know, I'll double check and see if there's any way. Generally, there's not. But maybe
the
I'll look.
only way I
For
could
something
think
like that, you
about
know,
Right,
that
it makes sense.
it might be able to be done.
it, special use permit.
You could
Yeah.
just say,
Perhaps.
don't use pressure.
That
treated.
needs to be renewed each year, but what's the special use?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it would be
You
because
can't grant that
they'd
out.
have it there until plants grew.
Everybody is, not everybody. The same questions come up several times. And it's not, it runs with the land,
I know,
that's it.
but I was just trying to go away with it.
Yeah, I know, to be creative. So,
It is.
Instead of saying no all the
6 to
time.
7.
6 to 7.
or whatever.
Yeah, and they said it's because their land is uneven. So
right.
I think the top is gonna be, the impression I got was the top would be even.
Right.
But because the land kind of goes like this,
Mhm.
some places it would be 6
Lower.
and some places it would
And
be
it's,
7.
if you recall, it's Jerry's
on ground
letter
level.
from ground level up. So,
From the road or from the,
From the.
From where the
wherever you
post
put
is.
it,
From
your
ground.
property.
so if the ground level is just, argument's sake,
Undulates.
2 feet above the road level,
Right.
And you,
you're already can.
So
be-
then
You'd
you're
be
6
4
feet.
You could be 6 feet above the
That's
road
right,
level.
because it's.
right,
Without-
it's
for
4
the-
feet in your
Right.
yard.
Because think of it, as Charlie had the same question just before. I said,
Measures from the
imagine if you
ground.
lived on a cliff, right?
Yeah.
It was 100 feet up. You couldn't put any fence? So you
If it was
come
by
off
road
the-
level,
Right, if it was 100 feet above road
Yeah.
level, you'd be hamstrung, right?
Yeah, I
So,
guess so.
yeah.
Probably wouldn't
So the
want
same
it.
thing works in the other direction, right?
All right. Interesting.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Just another reminder for training hours.
Yes, I have to-
Did you get
Um,
mine?
It's only 2 more months. I have to get yours. I'll go through the spreadsheet again tomorrow and send out reminders if that helps for those who need.
We just send out what we have. But
You got it.
I can't keep track of it.
That's what I do. That's
I
why
can tell
I'm
you
here.
I can tell you what you went into the year. but,
You
know,
may
'cause
have
we
had
that
holdover.
report in January, it said what your balance was. So I think,
you might have some
I
carryover.
think
You have-
you,
you
I
have
think you're
enough
fine.
time.
Charlie.
I think you're good, Bill. Mary Lou's 160.
No, you can only carry them over 1 year.
Isabel has this one. Yeah, we
Whether
did
she
it.
could join remotely. I mean, if she's not needed as
So,
part of the meeting, she can watch it on YouTube.
sure.
But if
For
you
board
find out
members.
that you're going to have, you're not gonna have a quorum, then you should call her and then you'd have to be in person to
But
get
the,
the quorum.
the meeting itself, members can't be remote and present. It's either all present or all.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
I'm not touching
Well,
on
Harold's
you
nails done
gentlemen.
yet?
Close.
Yeah.
I gotta pick up supper on the way home.